God couldn't sleep. What does it mean God sleeps? God ever sleeps? The answer is that he makes himself like he sleeps. When Jews are sleeping, he's sleeping. When Jews fall asleep, and then they stop doing what they have to do spiritually, they're sleeping spiritually, then he also falls asleep. And the protection and what happens when a person, so he went into a whole explanation, what is the difference between a person when he sleeps and a person when he's up. And he explained that when a person is sleeping, all his senses, all his soul powers retreat, and they are elevated to his source, to the source of the soul, to replenish, to gain new strength. But his body, but those same soul powers, at the time when they're back, retreated back into there, and are elevated up to the source, to the soul, the body is not receiving and enjoying those soul powers. That's what makes him sleep. It's not. But that doesn't mean that the soul powers are shut down. On the contrary, the soul powers are elevated to the source, to the soul, and over there they're even stronger than the way they are in the body. Because everything in the source is stronger than the way they then are projected and lowered into a lower level, which is the body. So the soul powers are strong. Not only are they strong, but they're even stronger. It's just that the way its connection to the body is weakened. That's why a person is sleeping. He said the same way spiritually. He says when God is sleeping, what does it mean? Those godly energies, this we learned last week already, just going over it quickly. Those godly energies that emerge from God's essence to create the world, to animate the world, to fill the world, to sustain the world, that energy that is being lowered to create the world is already a lowering of God's light, of God's creative force. What happens when he's sleeping? It retreats back up to its source, right? So in the source, so let's say when a person is asleep, when a person is up, he said another difference. When a person is up, everything is in order. A person, when he's up, his brain is seen as a higher power, his heart is seen as also a powerful force in the person's body, but then his feet are lower. There's order. Higher is higher and lower is lower. Same thing when God is up. When God is up, it's everything in the world is normal. What does normal mean? That which is on a higher level is seen and they're recognizable as a higher level. And that's so. For example, when God chose this, for example, the Jewish people, which are God's chosen people, when He's up, metaphorically, figuratively, when He's up, it's recognizable that the Jewish people are on a higher level. They're treated better. God sustains them, protects them, and so on and so forth. But when He's sleeping, what happens when a person is sleeping? In a dream, everything is confused. In a dream, everything is upside down. Things are topsy-turvy, a little bit chaotic in a dream. There's no order in a dream. You could be in New York in one second. A second later, you could be in London. And 3 seconds later, you could be in Alaska. And everything, and in your dream, it all sounds normal. Right? It's not only that. A lot of funny things happen in the dream, and you don't even realize that's weird. When God is sleeping, that's what happened. That's when exile is a result. The Jewish people in exile is a result of God sleeping. What is exile? When the Jewish people are downtrodden, they suffer, the enemies of the Jews gain power over them. That's a dreamlike situation. That's a dreamlike situation. Imagine a father takes his enemies and makes them the favorite, and takes his own children and then allows his enemies to control them. That's a normal situation. That's a dreamlike situation. That's what exile is. So it says that when the Jews were in exile, God is asleep. That's what, in other words, God is asleep. That's why the Jews end up in exile. So the miracle was that night, even though it was still night, it's still exile, the king, God, couldn't sleep. He woke up. His sleep was disturbed. And what happens when God's sleep is disturbed? Everything starts falling into place in that. Everything starts falling into order. And that is why, that's why the commentator says that it's at this verse, in the beginning of chapter 6 of the Megillah, that the miracle really begins. Because that's when it began. When God woke up, he couldn't sleep anymore. And that's why everything started turning around at that point. Mordechai was treated with respect. Haman Haman was subjected to Mordechai, and so on, and everything began to start turning around at that point. So it's the waking up of God that created this miracle. You understand, yeah? So now we'll continue in chapter 6. If you want to follow me, those that are able to follow in the Hebrew. There. Hell, you could have it. You read Hebrew. Who else reads Hebrew? Anyone else?
I can follow.
I'll get you the right page. Chapter 6. I'll also remind you that we learned that that also explains that when the Jewish people so he explains not only that, he says furthermore. He says, David, you want one? This. He says furthermore, it's not that the Jewish people are stop being God's chosen people when they're in exile. This is just like when you're sleeping. Your soul powers don't stop existing. On the contrary, they're even stronger. They go up to their source, and over there they're even stronger. They get replenished. They get stronger. They're on a higher level. So when the Jews are in Golus, that's true too. When God is sleeping, it's not that the Jews stop being Jewish and they stop being God's children. They go up to in a sense, his love for them is even stronger. It's just that it's in his essence. It's in his essence. It's not manifest in his body, meaning in this physical world. So in this physical world, they can end up being in exile. They can end up in Auschwitz, which is tragic. It's light, it's night, it's dark. But it doesn't mean that in his essence, they're not on the highest level. And that's how he explains another interesting detail regarding the destruction of the temple. It says that when the Goyim went into the non-Jews, the enemies went into the temple inner chamber where the ark was situated, they observed something very strange. It says that on the ark there were these two cherubs, right? And the two cherubs there were a male and a female figure, and when God, something very interesting would happen with those two figures. When God was happy with the Jewish people, they would be embracing each other. Those two figures, those golden figures, would embrace each other. And that was a sign that God was pleased with the Jewish people. When God was upset with the Jewish people, they would face away from each other. That's how it would happen. So the Medrash tells us something very strange, that when the Babylonians went in to the temple to destroy it, what did they see? They saw those figures embracing in a loving embrace. So the question is, they're going into exile. This is a time when God is most upset at them, right? That's why they're going into exile. Why are they embracing? Why were those two cherubs embracing each other? It should be the other way around. And the Rebbe explained that's not the case. The reason is because when the Jewish people went to exile, he compares it to another interesting halacha that says that when a person goes away on a trip, a husband goes away on a trip from his wife, from home, the night before he has to be with his wife. The halacha is they should be intimate before he leaves. See, and then he can leave. So the Rebbe explains that God was in the destruction of the temple. God was leaving. He was leaving the Jewish people, his wife, for a long time. They were going to go into exile. God was going to go somewhere else, figuratively, obviously. They weren't going to be together again in the temple for a very long time. So as is happening, God was intimate with the Jewish people, and with that intimacy manifested itself on the cherubs. The husband and wife, two figures, were embracing each other in a loving embrace. And the Rebbe points out with this that exile doesn't mean that God is away from us. On the contrary, when we're even deeper, we're even deeper in our connection with Hashem. It's just that we're elevated to His source. God's soul powers are retreating up to His source. It's not manifesting itself down here. That's why it's exile here. It's not ordered. It's chaotic down here. But in His source, everything is the way it's. Everything is. In other words, the Jewish people's connection with Hashem is in its source is revealed even more, because in other words, just like when a person is sleeping, his soul powers are elevated to its source, and over there they're stronger, right? Everything in its source is much stronger. The same thing over here. The Jewish people, when the God is sleeping, everything about him is essential. It's the essence. There's no revelation. Revelation is not happening at that moment. It's not revealed, just like when a person is sleeping. The essence is alive, and the revealed powers are sleeping. They revert, they go up to their source. The same thing, the Jewish people. It's not that God stops loving us. It's not that we're not children anymore. But it's to the contrary, our connection to God is revealed in its source, not down here. True, not down here. But in its source, it's even stronger, because we're rooted in God's essence. So before we went into exile, God was intimate with us. Because on the contrary, over there, we're much stronger, much more revealed. Our connection to Him is stronger and more revealed. It's more essential. You follow what I'm saying?
In theory, yes. But in practice, it's very difficult to imagine that people that went through Auschwitz or all these things, I understand their bodies
You're
are
not listening.
suffering
You're not,
here,
the whole point is that the reason there could be an Auschwitz is because it's not manifesting itself down here in a revealed way. That's the whole reason such a thing can happen.
But it's hard to understand that the soul is in the highest level.
Yeah.
But then the body is going through such a horrible.
So I'm asking you, when you're sleeping, is your intellect finished?
No.
No. What happens to your intellectual power?
It's not available for me because
it's not available to your body.
Yeah.
But the source of your soul, it's there, and how, right? It's there even more than in your body. It's on a stronger level than in your body. But your body is completely crazy. It's thinking things that are wild, or dreamlike, insanity, and you think it's normal. Your brain is going haywire in your intellect is going haywire in your brain, and it makes no sense at all. Nothing in your dream makes sense, and you're telling me that your brain is on a higher level at that moment, right? But that's the fact. That's the truth. Your brain, your intellectual power is stronger when you're sleeping than when you're up. It's just that when you're sleeping, the strength is manifested only in the essence of your soul, not in your body. And that's why your body is horizontal. Your head and your feet are on the same level.
So you feel God sleeps?
When we're in exile, it's a metaphor for God's sleep. But what happens when we're sleeping? It's not that we're not special anymore. We're special as we are in Hashem's source, in Hashem's essence. In Hashem's essence, we're even stronger, much stronger. Problem is, it's not manifested in the body, which is this physical world. So our bodies are totally lost. We can end up in gas chambers, God forbid. No, it's not funny. It's not... So the great miracle was, what was the miracle on Purim? That's what almost happened on Purim. When they had us plan to put us in gas chambers. I mean, not gas chambers, because he didn't have that method, but whatever else it was going to be.
So why
The result was going to be the same.
Why didn't he wake up?
He did wake up. That's the whole point. Balayla Hahu, that night, God woke up. The king woke up.
Why doesn't he always wake up?
It's a good question. I don't know. It would be nice if he woke up in 1940.
Mm-hmm.
It would. You're right.
And it's not like people weren't practicing Judaism.
And you don't feel tragedy brings you closer to God?
It could be it does. The result of tragedy could be that it brings you closer to
But
God,
it
but
didn't
it's not
with
something that
everybody.
we would want. I'd rather not have the tragedy, and let me find a better way to get close to God.
That's not what happened.
But this brought them closer, because look what she did.
That's true. You're right.
This.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
And he showed
Fasted. Yeah, no
But
question
the
about it.
Holocaust, a lot of people didn't.
You're right.
they put
Doesn't
them
always
further
work that
away.
way. So some people, yes,
Some
for some
got
people
closer.
not.
Some, not all.
We got free will.
Right.
Let's move on now. So that's what we learned till now. Hopefully we'll finish this discourse. There's not too much left. Not that much time left. Vov, the 6th chapter, on the bottom of this page that are you on with me?
Yeah.
We're going to be reading in this, not in. The previous Rebbe continues in his discourse. Balayla Hahu nadidosh nasa malach malka shubayil mikra the Purim. Nasa adam Mysterious Nefesh Yisrael b'meshach kol hashana. He continues to explain that the fact that Hashem, God, woke up that night from his slumber, from his sleep, which is the main miracle of Purim. That's when the miracles began. How did that happen? What caused God to wake up? The self-sacrifice of the Jewish people. Throughout that whole year, the Jewish people were in a state and a readiness for self-sacrifice for God. By Inyan, who explains it. The Inyan of Mysterious Nefesh, where does the readiness for self-sacrifice come from? Why is a Jew ready to sacrifice his life for God? His neshama, but what part of his neshama? The intellectual part of the neshama?
No.
The emotional part of the neshama? Much deeper, the essence. Because of when the essence is alive, is awake, when the essence is revealed, because of your essence, you cannot. That causes you to be connected to Hashem even at the cost of your life. Because what's the difference between your essence and the lower levels of your soul? The intellect of the soul can rationalize that maybe it's not a good idea to die for God. What does it mean to die for God? When someone comes over to you and says, an enemy of the Jewish people comes over to him and says, if you don't worship idols, I'm going to kill you. And you say, no, let me kill me, I'm not worshiping idols. So if you're going to work from the rational place of your soul, so your rationale can tell you, bow to the idol, you don't even believe it anyway, just for show, and he'll leave you alone, and you'll be able to live for another 50 years and serve God. So what's better? To die now and not serve God for the next 50 years, or to worship, to bow to an idol only for show, you don't even believe it inside, and he'll leave you alone, you'll be able to serve God for 50 years. Mm-hmm. From a rational standpoint.
But that's your intellect.
That's your intellect. So from your intellect, the intellectual part of the soul, you will not be ready to give up your life. Where does the readiness for self-sacrifice come from? The essence. I'll give you an example. A mother is held up with her son, a murderer is going to kill him. And he says, which one are you? He asks the mother. I'm killing one of you. Which one should it be, you or your son? So if a mother thinks rationally, she has another 10 children at home. So she can say, my other 10 children will be orphans for the rest of their life, and I need to provide for them. So maybe it's better that I should live from a rational standpoint. It could be from a rational standpoint, it is better. Because there's more loss to a mother of 10 children that dies than a 2-year-old. A rational standpoint is a greater loss. More people will be affected if the mother dies than if the child dies. But no mother is going to let herself be alive, live, and sacrifice herself. There's no such thing. Why? Where does she get this readiness to sacrifice her life instead of her child? From the rational level of her motherhood? No. From the essence of her connection to her children. And the same thing with the Jew.
It's a good analogy.
Well, Inyan who explains, the Inyan Mysterious Nefesh, where does self-sacrifice come from? It comes from the essence of the soul that is beyond the revealed faculties of the soul. Right? Beyond the detailed faculties, intellect, emotions, and so on. That's the essence of the soul. That means that this idea of giving up your life for Hashem, which means that he's not taking into account any of the intellectual calculations. What is he doing? What does a person do when he's ready for self-sacrifice? It's a conflict going on. The essence of the soul is telling him one thing. His rational aspects of the soul, the lower levels of the soul, are telling him something else. What happens over here? He allows the essence to be the dictator, right? Which means that the lower levels of the soul all elevate themselves to the essence of the soul, and that's where he's functioning. He's functioning from that standpoint. You understand? Similar to what happens when you're sleeping. What happens when you're sleeping? You with me? What happens when you're sleeping? Your faculties are all, the detailed faculties are all elevated to the essence. That's what happens when you by Mysterious Nefesh. Your faculties are all now elevated and connected to the essence. But there's a difference. When you're sleeping, when you're sleeping, the elevation of the detailed faculties of the soul are elevated in such a way that they're removed from the body. They're removed from the body. And they go up to the essence, the way the essence is in concealment from the body. But by an experience of self-sacrifice, is the other way around. The concealed part of the soul, which is the essence, becomes revealed, and that shines in the lower powers. You understand what's happening? When you're sleeping, the revealed powers elevate, go up to the essence, and they all become concealed. And that's why your body is almost dead. By Mysterious Nefesh, it's the other way around. In other words, it's both functioning from the essence. But when you're sleeping, the detailed powers are going up to the essence, and everything becomes concealed. When you're Mysterious Nefesh, when you're ready for self-sacrifice, it's the other way around. The essence comes down and shines in the detailed powers as they are manifested in the body. You watch a person that's ready for self-sacrifice. He's on fire. He is on fire. Everything is essential. At that moment, the essence is penetrating his whole entire existence. His hands, his feet, his intellect, his heart, everywhere. So it's the other way around. It's both the connection to the essence, but when you're sleeping, everything goes up there into concealment. When you're Mysterious Nefesh, everything comes down into revelation. The essence is revealed in your body. It's the other way around. that causes that the detailed faculties of the soul, as they are functioning in the body, should be completely nullified to the essence. And the essence is dictating everything that's going on in your body at that moment. But it's not that your body is not functioning. On the contrary, your body is up and alive. But it's all functioning from the essence.
So the essence is taking over.
The essence is taking over completely. And manifested in every single detail of your body. It's just the opposite of sleep. And that's why the Jewish people's readiness for self-sacrifice is what caused God to wake up. What happened when the Jewish people were Mysterious Nefesh? Mysterious Nefesh means self-sacrifice. Remember that term. What happened when they were in a Mysterious Nefesh mode? The essence of their nefesh, of their soul, which is beyond the regular faculties of the human being, as they are in the body, began to shine in a revealed state in the body. Right? That caused that in Hashem's reality the same thing should happen. That the essence of Hashem, which is beyond the regular natural order, when he's asleep, the godly life force of the world, we said, goes up to the essence and everything is concealed. But everything is as it's in the essence. The problem is it's not revealed down here. What happened when the Jewish people were in Mysterious Nefesh? Their essence began to shine in their revealed body. The same thing happened above. God woke up and his essence began to shine in the world.
So that caused
Hashem's essence to be revealed in other words, just the opposite of sleep. In sleep, it's the powers of the soul, the power of God as it's manifest in this world, elevated and went up into concealment, into the essence. So as it's in the essence, it's much stronger, you're right. But it's not down here. But what good is it for us? At some level, maybe it's good, but not in reality. The Mysterious Nefesh of the Yid, which caused his own essence, the Jew's essence, to shine in the manifest levels of the body, that caused Hashem's essence to not to be concealed up there, not to pull up the revealed levels into the essence, but on the contrary, to bring down the essence into the revealed levels. And what happens then? There's no golus. There's no exile. The Jewish people are on top, and they get saved, and everything goes good. That's what happens. The Yuvim Zemeprati says, he said, this will be understood with more detail. Api Ayedua. Api Ayedua Shashleim is the Mysterious Nefesh, Ksham Mysterious Nefesh, Msad Yechid, Nefesh Sepeyos, Gam Bekech Saprati. Chol Vaf, Chol Nafsh, Chol Gam Aveda Protz, Chol Kech Vekech, Tibay from the Mysterious Nefesh, Umaylam Didavak Bola. There's two types of Mysterious Nefesh. You could have a person who's living a secular life. He's not really connected to godliness too much. But when you tell him, hey, Jew, you're going to bow to an idol, I kill you, that he's not willing to do. He says, no way, I'm dying. And he's ready to die. And then what happens, the last second, something happens and he lived. The enemy, that person that was overthrown by someone else, let's say. Yeah? It happens. It could happen. Such a miracle can happen, right? You're ready to die, but you don't die because the guy that was ready to kill you, somehow something happened. His gun didn't, the trigger didn't pull, okay? So he gave up and he went away. Oh, how are you? Yeah? So what happens to this Jew? A day goes by, he calms down. Oh, he's overwhelmed with what just happened, but he calms down. He goes back to life. What is his life? Secularism. He doesn't live. Doesn't change him. For that moment, his essence was burning up alive. But if when the challenge is over, it's back to normal. But then there's another type of Mysterious. That's not the ultimate of Mysterious Nefesh. The ultimate experience of Mysterious Nefesh is when the essence becomes alive and it begins to penetrate his soul faculties as they're in the body in all levels. This is a person that he was challenged, his essence was suddenly woken up, but then when the challenge is over, he ain't going back to his prior life. He's changed forever. It wakes him up to such a level that his essence is revealed, and it changes the way he functions on a daily level as well. And that's what he's saying over here. Let's see it in his words. You see it? The Yuvanzeh. On page Pei. The Yuvanzeh, this will be understood but he says some more detailed according to that which is known, Shashleim is in Mysterious Nefesh, the ultimate of Mysterious Nefesh, Mysterious Nefesh, is when the Mysterious Nefesh is drawn and this begins to function and affect also his detailed lower faculties of his soul. All your heart and all your soul and everything. Even the daily life of a Jew, his detailed Aveda, his detailed divine service, the whole care of every individual faculty, Mysterious Nefesh should be in a mode of self-sacrifice. What's Mysterious Nefesh? Super ration. Without limit. That's what Mysterious Nefesh ultimately is. There's no limitation. You're ready to even give up your life. That's the ultimate of... There's no limits to your dedication. Right? And as the Mysterious Nefesh was by the story of Purim, that it penetrated every level of the Jewish people, men, women, children, everyone was ready to give up their life for Hashem in that year, during that year of the story of Purim. The meaning of this is that within each person himself there are different levels. There's the male within you, the female within you, the child within you. All these different levels, men, women, and children within every single person, means the detailed levels of the soul. We're also the power of the Mysterious Nefesh penetrated every level of every single Jew. That's also why the previous Rebbe says in his Maimon that this mode of Mysterious Nefesh, of self-sacrifice, was a whole year. What is a whole year? What does it mean to say a whole year? What's a year? In a year you have different seasons, different fluctuations, different ups and downs. And a year encompasses a whole person. A year encompasses all levels. Cold, warm, all the different aspects of life. And that's what he's trying to say over here, that the Mysterious Nefesh penetrated every aspect of life. This season, that season, within your own existence itself. Let's skip the brackets. In every season of the year there's a different mode of divine service. There's a divine service of winter, there's a divine service of summer, there's a divine service of every month, has a different aspect to it. To the point where every day has its own divine spark. Every day has its own mission, different than the day before and different than the day after. As it says, every day has its own specific day. It's a specific Aveda, specific divine worship. And that's what the previous Rebbe says, that they were in Mysterious Nefesh mode a whole year. He means to say that the Mysterious Nefesh, the essence of their soul, penetrated every single detail of their life. Today, tomorrow. In other words, yesterday's mode, today's Aveda, tomorrow's Aveda, every single detailed Aveda was penetrated with Mysterious Nefesh. The whole year went through the whole existence of a Jew.
That could be the 12 tribes, too.
12 tribes, exactly, every month. That point is, every month, every day has another detailed connection to Hashem. It was all penetrated with the Aveda of Mysterious Nefesh. So, this is also the result that our Mysterious Nefesh made Hashem wake up in the beginning of the 6th chapter. No, the king couldn't sleep, Hashem couldn't sleep. It means not that Hashem, what happened? Hashem woke up, so his essence began to shine into the detailed levels of our Seder Shtalshus, of our natural order, in every single detail. It penetrated every single detail of our of the whole Seder Shtalshus, of the whole chain-like order of spiritual evolution. All levels were penetrated with Hashem's essence. Just like the Jew, his Mysterious Nefesh affected that every single part of his life, his detailed keiches, his detailed faculties were manifested with the essence, with Mysterious Nefesh. The same thing, that caused the king to wake up, he couldn't sleep that night. That his essence also was woke up, revealed, and it penetrated every single detail of the Seder Shtaus, of the chain-like order of the evolution of all the worlds. What did the king say when he couldn't sleep? To bring the chronicles, right? So that they read the stories. And that's what they found, that Mordechai saved him, that whole thing, right? שנים שגם בספר הזכרין דברי היום, שרש הזמן כמבור במיימר, ועד שימוצא כוסף גיימר. גם בספר הזכרין דשושן אבירה כפשוטה, גם זמן הגולס, גול לאילם, שושן שכיני אמור. What does it mean? That they brought to him the Chronicles, the book of Chronicles. And they found over there that it was written, the whole thing, yeah? So he explains this a little bit on the spiritual level. The what? This essence was drawn into not only the Seder Shtalshalos, to the evolution of the world, the orderly evolution of the world in the lower levels, but it reached also into the source of time, whatever. The Sefer HaZechrein is the chronicle, the essence of time. It's a higher level. It's not, they'll delve into that for now. It means it went from the highest to the penetrated every single level. In other words, the world was functioning from Hashem's essence. And when that happens, Mordechai is put on the royal horse and the Haman schleps him around. There's no dreams anymore. When you're up, things are in order. Your son is on your table, and your enemy is kicked out. Huh?
I was saying it doesn't always function on that level, but...
Doesn't always. Balayla Hahu, that night the king's sleep eluded him. That's what happened that night. That's why that was the great miracle. That he couldn't sleep. Hashem couldn't sleep anymore.
Because it was for good, I guess. Everything he always gives to us, it's always coming from him, but sometimes it's bad. Maybe here it was for good. And
that's not for good. It ended up being good in this physical world as well.
Good.
And here he finishes off Zion, the 7th chapter. Just like it was in the Golus of Shushan, over there in Shushan Abira. Same thing, it's in every exile. Wherever the Jewish people were exiled, God went with them. They went to Rome, God was with them. They went here, God was with them and is with them in every exile. When a Yid is in a mode of Mysterious Nefesh, self-sacrifice, now we, today for example, there's no such a thing as Mysterious Nefesh. We don't have to give up our life to be Jewish. No one's threatening us in that way. So what does today Mysterious Nefesh mean? Not to be embarrassed from those that mock you. There are a lot of people out there that smirk other Jew. You're out of your mind, you became fanatic, you became religious, you're crazy, you're this, you're that. They laugh at you. They make you uncomfortable. Family members, neighbors, whoever it may be. You have to be able to stand up to that. It's not easy. It's easier to just retreat, either to stop talking to them and just hide behind closed doors, as many do. They don't want to deal with it, so they just hide behind closed doors. There's a better way to deal with it. Stand up to them and tell them who you are and how proud you are, that this is it, and, get used to it.
And teach them.
And teach them if they want to be taught, whatever.
They may not want to.
So that's also Mysterious Nefesh. That kosher to the Mysterious Nefesh. This not being embarrassed from those that mock you is also connected to a Mysterious Nefesh mode. With news, I'm Mysterious Nefesh, the Alis Bayish from Yamalim, the Shechel Satz, the Binyan Maparat, and Tera Mitzvah, Chol Meshach Kol Hayom. And this mode of not being intimidated by your surroundings can also be drawn into every aspect of your day. That you're never intimidated. Not just once a day, you face the world and you say, I am who I am, and then it doesn't manifest every moment. You're just in a mode of Mysterious Nefesh all day long. You don't care. You don't care what people say. In a good way, that is. So, that's why this thing, not to be intimidated by your surroundings, is recorded in the beginning of the Shulchan Aruch. It's the first thing we're told in the whole code of Jewish law. It's the first thing we're told. Why? V'ad nur dem Mysterious Nefesh mevia eise gamle de hisofe belieben dat Teire behide bekim ha-mitzvahs. V'ad hisofe l'mayne medide bekim shibab misad Mysterious Nefesh. V'ad shnik belieben dat Teire bekim Mysterious Nefesh. Okay, it goes on a little bit. We'll finish this next week. We're going to daven the other.